بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Straight away we go to our brother Abdullah, and he's going to recite inshallah from the chapter of Sujood. تفضل.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We're on the book صفة صلاة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من التكبير إلى التسليم كأنك تراها, and we're on the chapter of Sujood. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم would say takbir and go down into sajda.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Right, we're going to put a small subtitle after that sujood. We're going to put subtitle which is at-takbir wa raf'ul yadayn, that is making takbir and raising up the hands when you go down to the sujood. So this is takbir and as well raising up the hands. This is that subtitle. Right. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used to make takbir and he would go down to the sujood. Fadal.
And he ordered the man who prayed badly to do so, saying to him, no one's prayer is complete unless he says, Allah listens to the one who praises him and stands up straight, and then says, Allah is the greatest, and prostrates such that his joints are at rest.
Okay. Before I continue, please, I'm feeling that you are breaking up. Is that because of your internet or my internet? I'm going to ask Hassan, please. Do you hear me properly and you don't hear the brother properly, or both of us not properly?
Sheikh, I hear the brother clearly. I think there was a little bit of interruption on your internet, but it's okay now.
Okay, so it's mine. Okay. Okay. The brother is made. You are made. Ahmad, you are made co-host. So Abdullah, sorry. So you don't have to mute him, unmute him. He will mute himself, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Right. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he had said to the person who had made a wrong or mistake in the prayer. This is the story of a man who came to the masjid of the Prophet of Allah and offered a prayer in which he made a quick ruku' and a quick sujood. After he finished, he went to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Go back, for you haven't prayed. He done that 3 times. Every time they go back, when he goes back, he prays the same prayer that he used to pray before, which is quick in ruku', quick in sujood, which will invalidate, of course, the prayer. Because of that, the Prophet ﷺ, after he had said to the Messenger of Allah, I know nothing except for this, please teach me. But the Prophet of Allah started to teach him, and that's how we got the actions of the prayer which are needed. So these are the actions of the prayer that are needed, that which we call it hadith al-musi' salata, the one who had done wrong in his prayer. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, no one's prayer would be complete until, and then he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, goes up, that's a pillar. And then he says, Allahu Akbar, and that's compulsory, not a pillar. Remember, every pillar is compulsory, but not vice versa. He would say Allahu Akbar, and he would raise the hands, and that's compulsory. And then he would go down to the sujood. He will go down to the sujood. Let me just, please, for a second. Right, so he would make sujood until all his limbs are settled. Settling the limbs, we're going to see inshallah how is settling the limbs, inshallah, when it comes to the point how the sujood is performed. Fadal.
Also, when he wanted to perform sajda, he would say takbir, separate his hands from his sides, and then perform sajda.
Right. So when he makes sujood, he would make takbir, and then he would make a space between. That means he would do it like that. It's not like this. So he do it like that. So he would make space between his arms and his hand, and then he would go to the sujood. Right. So as we said before, we're going to say this. So that is, this is when we go from the ruku'. Sami'a Allahu liman hamida. When you reach this point, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And then we're going to say Allahu Akbar to go down. So we say Allahu Akbar. What's the mistake? Don't do like this. So it's like this, Allahu Akbar. There's a space. No. Then he would prostrate. Go ahead.
Sometimes he would raise his hands while performing the sajda.
So this, he would say raising up the hands. So raising up the hands when you go to the sajda is not as compulsory as that. So it's not compulsory. This is sunnah. Okay. So when we said Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, that's compulsory. But when going to the sujood, Allahu Akbar, sometimes he would raise up his hands. Sometimes. So when he raises up his hands, okay, sometimes that's not is making it, that is not, is to be compulsory. Sorry, just my kids are playing around there and making noise. Let me just go back and. Assalamu alaikum. Just nobody to look after the little kids. That's why I have to make sure that they're not really making noise. No. Inshallah. Right. So the second, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. We say that the second af'al yadayn is not a pillar, it's not an obligation, but it's actually is a sunnah. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't do it. Fadal. Second title.
Going down into the sajda on the hands. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to place his hand on the ground before his knees.
Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says in his book, which is the Talkhis, that saying Allahu Akbar is compulsory, it's not a pillar. And raising up his hands, sometimes he does it, that is with the going to the sujood. And this is if you imam you're doing it, then you'll follow the imam. So the imam is doing it, and you follow the imam, inshallah. Right. Okay, inshallah. Let's go now to the sujood, he says, and that is going to the sujood with the two hands. And I've discussed this just in a class, which is for the people in Northampton. Prophet ﷺ used to put his hands on the land before his knees. Go ahead.
He used to place his hands on the ground before his knees. There's a footnote here as well.
Yeah, but just need to continue, then we'll go to the footnote.
He used to instruct likewise, saying, when one of you performs sajda, he should not kneel like a camel, but should place his hands before his knees.
Right. Now read the footnote of number 4, which is the last thing. It says Al-Imam al-Awza'i. I'll read that, please. If you haven't got it, tell me. And then at the end of that, which says Al-Imam al-Awza'i, rahimahullah, he said, I have lived to see the people putting their hands before their knees. You got that one?
Not that I can see.
It says Ibn Khuzaymah, Daraqutni, correct?
Oh, yes.
If you go further, it says that there Imam al-Awza'i. Doesn't say that?
It says Al-Marwazi. No Awza'i.
Go on, read after al-Marwazi. That's because you haven't prepared. Read after that.
Also Al-Marwazi quoted with a Sahih Isnad. Imam Al-Awza'i in his Mazail saying,
Prepare next time. Next time, prepare. Okay. So it's Imam al-Awza'i who had said, yes, go ahead. You've got it.
I found the people placing their hands before their knees.
Okay, Abdullah, inshallah, prepare. Because if you don't prepare, you don't know what I'm talking about. So it's Imam al-Awza'i, and he said, I live to see the people putting their hands upon their knees. Now, number 5, please, which is the footnote. I want you to read from what it says that, and in Kitab al-Tahajjud, he says that it is a better chain than the one before, and he meant Hadith Wa'il al-Mu'arad. Go on from there. Please read.
Abdul Haq declared
Yes, correct.
Abdul Haq declared Sahih in Al-Ahkam and went on to say in Kitab al-Tahajjud, it has a sounder isnad than the previous one. In other words, the hadith of Wa'il, which is the other way, knees before hands. In fact, the latter hadith, as well as being contradictory to this Sahih hadith and the preceding one, is neither authentic in isnad nor in meaning, as I have explained in Silsila al-Hadith al-Da'ifa.
Continue, please. There's a footnote. Continue the footnote, please.
It should be known that the way to differ from the camel is to place the hands before the knees, because the camel places its knees first. A camel's knees are in its forelegs, as defined in Lisan al-Arab and other books of the Arabic language, and as mentioned as Tahawi in Mushkil al-Athar and Sharh Ma'ani al-Athar. Also, Imam Qasim al-Saraqusti rahimahullah narrated in a Gharib al-Hadith with a Sahih isnad that Abu Hurairah's statement in which he said, no one should kneel the way a runaway camel does. And then the Imam added, this is in sajda. He is saying that no one should throw oneself down, as a runaway or an untamed camel does, hurriedly and without calmness. But he should go down calmly, placing his hands first, followed by his knees, and an explanatory marfu' hadith has been narrated in this regard. The Imam then mentioned the hadith above. As for Ibn al-Qayyim's extremely strange statement, which was, these words are incomprehensible and not understood by the experts of the language, it is answered by the sources which we have mentioned, and also others which can be consulted. I have also expanded on this in the refutation against Sheikh Tuwajiri, which may be published.
Right. So this footnote basically telling us that there is a hadith from Wa'il ibn Hujr, which he says that the person puts his knees first before the hands, and it's not sahih. The hadith which is sahih, and that is he used to put his hands before the knees, and also he used to command to do so. And he said, if one of you to make sujood, then let him not to be doing the same thing as the ba'ir. Ba'ir is the camel. Camel has 4 legs. When he goes down with the front ones, and these knees are in the front ones. And that's why if you look at the legs of the camel, the front ones, they've got this massive sort of padded knee for the camel to go down. So this is where the confusion took place. This is why Ibn al-Qayyim had made the mistake. Every 4-legged animal, the knees of theirs are in the front. So when he goes down on the front ones to basically land on the earth, he goes with the front one down. That means he goes onto the knees. And we as people who pray, we should be as far as we can to imitate those animals, whether it is the camel, or when we go to sujood, not to imitate the crow or the cook or the rooster, or when we sit, we're not supposed to be imitating the monkey, or when we make sujood, we're not supposed to imitate the beast, and also the dog. So the animals, okay, regardless of whether they are good animals or not good animals, because some of the animals carry good characteristics, like the lion and like the camel. Some of them they carry very bad, like the snake and the scorpion and the rats and all of that. But we're not allowed to imitate any animal, regardless, in our prayer. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, do not land like the camel, and land with your hands first. And I also said in that class, I said it is medically even helpful for the person to go onto his hand. Ask me, I'm getting old, so I know if I go to land on my knees, I'm gonna have a kneecap straight away. And that is why the person who got a kneecap because of the prayer, because he lands on his knees, especially if you've got a hard floor. Imagine that your floor is exactly like the Masjid Prophet's ground, which is made of pebbles. If you land with your knees onto the pebbles, definitely you're gonna break your knees. You're gonna have some injury later on. So when you get old as well, you will not be able to land slowly onto your knees. But that's why the hands comes to save you from that. Okay, very sort of heavy landing. You put your hands, your palms, and then it goes with your knees afterwards. So the hadith is correctly said that the Prophet ﷺ said, let him put his hands first before the knees. Those scholars who said, no, this is wrong because the narrator had said it the other way around, this will open the gate of bid'ah. People start saying, oh, this hadith is not correct because the narrator did not really mention it correctly. He had made it the other way around. Where it's because of your understanding of the hadith that you thought that the narrator made it wrong, but not. We have this hadith from different, which is a hadith which says, Prophet of Allah, when he used to make sujood, he would land onto the earth with his hands before his knees. That's number one hadith. The other hadith, which is that if one of you to prostrate and make sujood, let him not to imitate the camel, but let him land with his hands before his knees. I've got this hadith is clear, okay? And the other hadith is not authentic, its narration is not authentic. It's not we're saying that it's authentic, and when you said, but the narrator is confused, which one is first? Okay, so every 4-legged animals, okay, we don't say 2 legs and 2 hands. No animal's got 2 legs and 2 hands, okay, which is the one who goes into 4. The monkeys, he goes on 1 and 2, so we call them the hands of the other 2. But the animals like the dogs and the lions, we don't say they got 2 hands and got 4 legs. I mean, have you ever seen a camel saying Salaam alaikum like this with his hand? So 4 legs, okay? So his knees are in the front legs. Now, Problem.
He also used to say, verily, the hands prostrate as a face prostrates. So when one of you places his face on the ground, he should place his hands, and when he raises it, he should raise them.
Right. So this is now adds another issue. By the way, Abdullah, your voice is going too far away from you. If you get closer to the speaker, it would be better. So you can make it louder. Jazakallah khairan. Right. So this says here that the two hands prostrate, okay, as the face. So if one of you to put his face for, okay, then let him put his hands, and then when he wants to lift up, then let him lift him up. وإذا رفع فليرفعهما. So فإذا وضع أحدكم وجهه فليضع يديه. You want to put it there, you put your hands. When you get up from the sajda, then you raise up your hands. And you sit down between the sajda, and so on and so forth. Now, the description of the sujood now.
The sajda described. He would support himself on his palms and spread them, put his fingers together, and point them towards the Qibla.
So his hands and palms, he would do like exactly when you do the takbir. Allahu Akbar, exactly the same. But remember, I've got a space naturally here between my little finger and between the next one. But but you're not supposed to do like that. That's not correct. So it's normal. So this is normal. So you put this. Let's say that I'm in the ground now. You put this, okay, like that, for your head. That's when you make the sujood. So these are, it says, pointing, okay, to the Qibla. Pointing to the Qibla. And you would depend upon them. So it's not like some people do like this. That's not correct. So some of the people, when they do the sujood, when they are in the sujood, they do like that. So you depend upon them, like that. So you depend upon them. So you're depending upon them. Not like this. Okay, some people do like that, and some people do like this, or that wrong. So it has to be depending upon them. So you're pushing the ground with them when you make sujood. Now, I'm going to go to the following sentence. Please, Abdullah, go ahead.
Also, he would put his palms level with his shoulders and sometimes level with his ears.
Right, so his palms leveled with his shoulders. This is his shoulders. So when he makes sujood, he makes the sujood, okay, like that. Right, so he's level. So this is level here, basically, that your thumb is either level with your earlobe or they are level with your shoulder, just a bit down. But there's no such thing that you make sujood and your hand is further away from your head. Or some of them, they do it, they put it really far off and they put the sujood like that. They're not comfortable. And as well, when you make sujood, make sure that you have a space of your hand exactly when you make the takbir. You don't make takbir like this, do you? You don't make the takbir like that. They don't make the takbir like this as well. You make it normal like that. So these are the ones, they will land like this. So they will leave a space onto the ground for your head. Because I've seen some people, they do like this. Okay? Yes, I have seen some people who are, I don't know whether they were natural people or not, they were doing like that. Okay? I mean, that's extreme as well. But this one, I've seen it a lot. They do like this and they keep sujood like that. That's wrong. If they make a space like that, when you make takbirah, okay, and then your head is in between. Fadal akhi.
He would put his nose and forehead firmly on the ground.
And also he said, go ahead. Continue.
He said to the one who prayed badly, when you prostrate, then be firm in your prostration. In one narration, when you prostrate, put your face and hands down firmly until all your bones are relaxed in the proper places.
All right. So basically here, that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to put as well, when he makes his sujood, he would put his forehead and his nose. Some people, I've seen them, they make their nose not touching, so they do like that. This we're going to see later on, that it will invalidate their prayer because it's a pillar to make your nose touch the ground, just like your forehead has to touch the ground. Fadal.
He also used to say, there is no prayer for the one whose nose does not feel as much of the ground as the forehead.
So that makes it straight away a pillar. So it's a pillar. That means if you don't do it, your sujood is invalid, which makes your rak'ah is invalid, which in turn will make your whole prayer invalid. Fadl.
He used to put his knees and toes down firmly, point the front of the toes towards the Qibla, put his heels together, keep his feet upright, and ordered likewise.
And also we add to that after this, وَكَانَ يَفْتَخُ أَصَابِعَهُمْ, and it's أَصَابِعَهُمَا. He used to, when his toes goes down, he would press onto them. So when you press onto them, they will go with space in between. So if I'm going to put my foot now for you, let me just see if I'm agile enough to put it on the table. So that's when you do the sujood like that. So when you press it towards the Qibla, towards you, Qibla, and you can see here that here there's a space. There's a space between the toes because you're pressing toes. But when he, as well, put them, when he does the sujood, he would put as well 2 feet together. So it will be like that. So I'm going to be putting it towards. If I put it together, so his sujood will be like this. Right. So that's the. That's the proper sujood. Don't make space between them. So your feet together, and you're pressing towards the ground, and there are space between the toes, and then they are towards yourself, towards the Qibla.
Hence, these are the 7 limbs in which he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would prostrate: the palms, the knees, the feet, the forehead, and nose, counting the last 2 as 1 limb in prostration, as
Right.
he sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Hang on. Right. So he said these are the 7 limbs. The palms, that means the 2 palms. And then the knees, that means the 2 knees. We don't have more than 2 knees. That's 4. And the feet, which is the toes, that's 2 feet. That's 6. And he said the forehead and the nose are to be 1. So these makes it now 7. So this one is 1. So he says 7. Now, go ahead. He made the Prophet the 2. Now.
Counting the last 2 as 1 limb in prostration,
No.
as he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have been ordered to prostrate. We have been ordered to prostrate on 7 bones, on the forehead, and he indicated by moving his hand around his nose, the hands, and in another version the palms, the knees, and the toes, and not to tuck up the garments and hair.
Right. So here we find as well a footnote from before Abdullah ibn Umar. He used to love to face the Qibla in everything when he prays, his hands and his toes and everything. And here we find that Prophet ﷺ, he had commanded us that to prostrate on 7. Now these 7s are, okay, all of them obligatory, save the forehead and the nose. If you prayed with that, okay, basically these are the one who compromises the sujood. If you don't do them, that means your sujood is not correct. But if the person, let's say, he prayed like this with his feet. Okay, just do like that. Right. Some of the scholars invalidate, some of the scholars they don't, because he made the sujood, and that's the most important one. But these are the 7. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, these are the 7 limbs, but he did not say if you don't have, like he said about the nose and the forehead, that if you don't have the 2 feet in the ground, your prayer is invalid. Right, so we are being commanded, so that means it's compulsory. But to make it a pillar, there's something else. And then he says, the last bit, please, which you said, the last bit in it, he says, well, a neck fit, we don't really roll this, what does it say, the clothes?
And not to tuck up the garments and hair.
Tuck up the garments on the hair. Tucking up the garments like this. So when you're praying, you're not supposed to be having your garment like that. Or, for example, okay, so you can't have that as well, like this. That's called tucking. So it has to be Roll, because everything prostrates with you. Okay, everything prostrates with you. That's talking for the hair. This is for the women. So could you go, please, go to the footnote there of that, please?
i.e.,
I'll tell you what, the footnote will come later on. Go on.
Okay.
Used to say as well. Finish it. I want to just show it, inshallah. Go on.
he said about a man who was praying with his hair tied behind him. His example is surely like that of someone who prays with his hands bound behind his back.
No, before that, there's a saying, you missed it. When you're the person prostrate.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
No.
He also used to say, when a slave prostrates, 7 limbs prostrate with him: his face, his palms, his knees, and his feet.
Continue, please.
He said about a man who was praying with his hair tied behind him. His example is surely like that of someone who prays with his hands bound behind his back. He also said, that is the devil, i.e., where the devil sits, referring to the knots in the hair.
Right. So here, please can you just read again? He said, regarding a man who prayed with his hair tied up, he said, this is like one is being cuffed. Read that again, please.
He said, his example is surely like that of someone who prays with his hands bound.
Okay, his hands bound like that.
Meaning behind his back.
Yeah, bound like this. Right. So this person, now we're going to go to the footnote of this, please.
Ibn al-Athir says, the meaning of this hadith is that were his hair loose, it would fall on the ground when in sajda. Hence, the man would be rewarded for the prostration of the hair. However, if the hair is tied, it is effectively as though it did not prostrate, for he compared him to someone whose hands are shackled together, since they would then not lie on the ground in sajda.
Continue, please.
It would seem that this instruction is limited to men and does not apply to women, as Shawkani has quoted from Ibn al-Arabi.
Right, so we find here that this tying up of the hair is only for the men, not for the women. So the men, when they prostrate, they got long hair. For short hair, you got no problem. But long hair, you don't tie it up. You have to make it loose in order for you to prostrate with it. Okay. As for the women, they could tie it up, no problem. The hadith of the tucking up the clothes is mentioned in another hadith as well. The Prophet said, prohibited. But the person, he would tuck up his clothes, which is this one or the underneath as well, to tuck them up. And also the same hadith it says, and also to cover your mouth. That's a male and a woman, male and female, to cover your mouth while you're praying. And that is the veil. So you don't have a veil unless the woman, she covers her face and there's strangers. Right, now, the last one he says here that this is where the shaitan, so the shaitan goes into that knot of that man where he ties it up. He needs to loosen it up. Fadal.
He would not rest his forearms on the ground, but would raise them above the ground and keep them away from his sides, such that the whiteness of his armpits could be seen from behind. And also, such that if a small lamb or kid wanted to pass under his arms, it would have been able to do so.
Continue, please.
He would do this to such an extent that one of the companions said, we used to feel sorry for the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of the way he kept his hands away from his sides.
Right, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would not make his arms, his elbow like this when he makes a sujood. So when he does like this is not correct. Touch when you're making the sujood, your elbow to the ground. It has to be like that. And also, it's not correct to do like this. Even the women, they're not supposed to do like this. Men and the women the same. Put like this. Now, if you are on your own, or the imam, you make them really, enough. It says here until it says like a small animal. There's a child there. It says a child. He said he would pass.
Such that if a small lamb or kid wanted to pass under his arms,
a kid is not correct. Small lamb, yes. The kid is not mentioned. Okay, to take away the kid. There's no kids here. Okay, so small lamb. That means it will be enough to pass through because of his doing like this. Even the companion used to feel sympathize with the Prophet. There's too much when you do like this. So that's how it's supposed to be if you're on your own. or you are the imam. But if you are with a jama'ah, you do it as much as you can. But doing like this deliberately is not correct. Right. Go ahead.
He used to order likewise, saying, when you perform sajda, place your palms on the ground and raise your elbows, and be level in sujood. And none of you should spread his forearms like the spreading of a dog, and in another narration, like a dog spreads them. In a separate hadith, he says, none of you should rest arms on the ground the way a dog rests them. He also used to say, do not spread your arms the way a beast of prey does. Rest on your palms and keep your upper arms apart, for when you do all that, every one of your limbs prostrates with you.
Right, so do not do like this because this is like the beast. Have you seen that how they, the lions do like that? The lions, with their legs like this, front legs. So this is, you've seen that the tigers do like this. It has to be up, not like that. We're not supposed to imitate them by putting the elbows on the ground. And Prophet ﷺ, he had told us that this, every limb of yours, even the clothes, even your hair, all of that will prostrate along with you. Alhamdulillah, now finished what we are supposed to say, and we leave the rest, which is number one, we're going to talk about the tranquility in the prayer, which is a pillar, and then the adhkar al-sujood. And we'll leave now the questions for you. Inshallah, we've got about 15, 16 minutes before we go, about 17 minutes, good 17 minutes. Would like Ahmed quickly, 1 minute, summarize how the questions and the answers would be. And please as well, remind those people, the ones you have made them to enter and they didn't have any Muslim name.
Okay, please, could you make sure for next time, if you didn't enter with a Muslim name, use a Muslim name. Because today, for example, we had a lot of people coming in and we were worried to let them in. So please use a Muslim name for next time. Don't worry this time. Format of the Q&A session is the following. If you go to the bottom right corner on the chat or participants, you'll see 3 small dots. If you click that, you can raise your hand. Okay. Once you raise your hand, you can ask a question. We've got a lot of raised hands. First one, Keva, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
So, yeah, Sheikh, it's mentioned by or the Maliki madhab that rolling up the sleeves is only makruh if you do it for the purpose of the prayer or deliberately for the prayer. And how do you go about that? So if you were doing, let's say, garden work and you raise your sleeves and then you go into the prayer, is it still not allowed to do so? So which is the correct?
Is that a dalil?
No, I'm saying as in like some people say that rolling the sleeves is only makruh if you do it deliberately. So is this the case or is it?
Can you prove? Here the Prophet ﷺ did not say that if you are doing it for the prayer. نهى عن كفت الثياب. It's not كفت الثياب here for salah. كفت الثياب. That is when you enter the. It's not to do with that when you are praying. The prohibition is to do like this while you're praying, or it is not. The prohibition is that for example, I'm doing this because I want to do my work and I enter the prayer, no problem. No, this is because the prostration of those clothes gonna go along with you. That's the same with the sha'r. So the Malikis are the ones has to update and look at the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So when any person wants to discuss something, so why the Maliki doing this? I don't know. This is their approach to the matter, because maybe Imam Malik rahmatullah did not arrive to this hadith. We have 2 hadith on this issue. So always go with the proof. We are Muslims, go with the proof. In Imam Malik himself, he said, every person can be taken from and rejected except who's in the grave, and he pointed to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. That one, you can take his words because it's from Revelation. Now I'm going to ask you, please, Ahmed, you give precedence for the people of Brixton. Well, they are, this is their class, okay? For the ones with Brixton, please, if you are from Brixton, change your name, put Brixton now, okay? And then you can put priority.
Bilal Brixton, please go ahead, Akhi.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ya ikhwan.
Because we've got time, quickly.
No problem. You mentioned as well that there was going to be a sub-heading for raising the hands, compulsory. Was this explained?
I'm going to mention, sorry, say that again, Bilal.
So the first chapter is sujood prostration, and you said and raising the hands was meant to be a sub-chapter. you got distracted by the children, alhamdulillah, but I don't know if that part was explained.
Help, brothers. Ahmed, did I say anything? What
You said to put a sub-chapter under the sujood, Sheikh, takbir and going down into the sujood. Bilal is just asking if you explain that.
Putting the hands when you go to the sujood.
No.
I said that this is going first takbir, which is with the hands when you go Sami Allahu liman hamida Rabbana wa lakal hamd. That is, we said, compulsory to say Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and also to raise up the hands because the Prophet likes to do it all the time. As for going down for the sajda, we said sometimes is to do it. So we say sunnah is sometimes to do it.
Okay.
But it's not compulsory. Is that answer?
No.
Alhamdulillah. No.
Abu Ubaidillah Brixton is asking, please, was it reported that the Prophet ﷺ did cupping during the month of Ramadan?
Did the Prophet ﷺ used to do cupping? It's not to do with the prayer, but I'll accept that, inshallah. Any person who wants to ask about Ramadan is as well valid. The Prophet ﷺ, yes, he did cupping. At the beginning, he used to say that the person who does the cupping and the person whose cupping has been done upon him both had broken their fast, but later on he did cup. Yes, he did made a cupping, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was fasting. Now,
anyone else from Brixton, or I have to
do
choose
not
someone else?
advise anybody to do cupping during the month, during his fast days. During the night, yes, but when he's fasting, the cupping takes blood. So when you take blood, you might have your glucose drop and you might lose it, and then you end up breaking your fast. So it's better not to do it because some people are different in terms of how they take it. Some of them are really weak. They collapse. Now, brother.
Okay, Ahmed Mohammed from Brixton. Please go ahead, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Can you hear me?
And I have to document this before I go ahead, before you go ahead, Ahmed, just to tell Abdullah, the reciter, your internet was not good because Ahmed and everybody is perfect. It's your internet actually is weak. That's why I'm not really, sometimes you are breaking up. So I will say to Hassan, you're wrong when you said about me. It's actually brother Ahmed, his internet, Abdullah, sorry. Ahmed, you recite your internet is not good. Go ahead, Father.
And Sheikh, I wanted to find out regarding breaking your fast. My local masjid timetable is usually 3-4 minutes behind according to when I go on Google, example, London sunset or my local borough sunset. Is it better that I follow the masjid, wait for 5 minutes, or instantly break my fast as soon as I know it's Maghrib?
As soon as you know it is Maghrib, you break your fast. It means your Google says to you that it is about 4 minutes before the timetable, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, some of the timetables even would be very close to the correct. Okay, Google, okay, is the best regarding this issue. So Google will give you the best sunset, inshallah. So stick with Google. As the other ones, they basically add minutes, all right? Add minutes. And I know, for a fact, I was in High Wycombe. And High Wycombe is got high and a Wycombe. Wycombe is a valley, and high, the mountains. So you've got people, in terms of altitude, different. We still have our timetable, and we are the only people in the locality there. We don't add minutes in the Maghrib. The other masajid during the month of Ramadan, they will add about 5 minutes extra just to make it out of precautionary. And this, as I said, precautionary, if it's based upon ignorance, based upon tanatta, which is going overboard, that's destruction. But if it's to do with something knowledge, it's no problem. But we know already that the sunset is, it's not that time. If you get adding time, why are you adding time? And this is going to get us into the zone of where the Prophet warned us as an ummah will be destroyed. So our timetable, we didn't have any extra minutes. I used to have a person, maybe he's listening here. If he's listening, please put your hands up and keep thinking you can see him. His name is Khalid Lal in High Wycombe. And he lives very high. If he's here, please, can you just put your hands up and down? Khalid, yes.
Khalid, just put his hand up.
Yeah, put his hands up. Can you just now unmute him now? I'm gonna unmute him after I finish. Mute him now, please. So what he Khalid, he's in his house and watching the sunset. Please, can you mute him, please, yeah, Ahmed? Listen to me until I finish. So he used to see from his house in High Wycombe, and he's too high, the sunset, and he even recorded it on his mobile. 7 minutes the sunsets before our timetable where we are in the valley, our masjid. So the sunsets for us in the valley, it will be even earlier than that. It will be about 10 minutes before. So when he is high, his sunset will be later. We are in the valley, our sunset will be earlier. Okay? Yet he is high, it is 7 minutes before our timetable. At that time, we didn't really, I don't know, did we match the Google? I don't know if you matched the Google now or not. Now, please, Khalid, speak.
Assalamu alaikum.
Can you support what I just said?
Yeah, that's correct. It's generally about 7 minutes before the timetable.
Right. So what about the Google? Did you check with Google? Sheikh Google, was he good or not?
I've never checked with Google. I've just did local sighting.
So your mission, Ya Khalid, inshallah, to check your sighting, because Google measures, the sunset maybe from the highest point. And maybe Google will be the closest to your sighting of yourself, because you've learned how to sight the sun and how the sun sets. But please update us with this. Jazakallah khairan.
Okay, inshallah.
Barakallah fi. You go back now to the person who's asking. Fadali Ahmed.
Rida Brixton, go ahead, big brother.
Hayallah, Sheikh.
Salam
Sheikh, this is concerning the imsak. When we check the nautical twilight where we are, it says 3:25. So when do we stop the imsak? Barakallahu fikum.
When you checked the nautical twilight, it says 3:25 or 4:25, please.
3:25, Sheikh.
3:25.
3:20 or 3:25, something like that.
On Google.
Naam, Sheikh. And then imsak is 5 minutes.
You're not correct, Akhi. Where do you live?
Battersea.
Okay. Let me show you. Which is London, isn't it?
Naam.
Okay. So here, I'm going to ask Mr. Google, what time is nautical dawn in London?
Dusk will be at 8:57 p.m.
So this is the dusk. Now, I'm going to go to the nautical dawn and always use the website is the best one, is UK weather. Right? And this is the nautical dawn. Nautical dawn, ya akhi, it's 4:10 in the morning. So I don't understand where it's the 3:25. 4:10. You're not looking at the nautical, you're looking at the astronomical.
Probably, Sheikh.
Yeah. You're making a mistake here. The nautical dawn is 4:10. And your timetable, I am saying by Allah, I don't know your timetable, it has to be before that. Correct or not?
Naam.
What time is it?
But 3 minutes past 4.
So I'm giving you more 7 minutes now.
So imsak is at 20 past 4. Is that what you're saying?
No, 4:10.
Oh, 4:10. Jazakallah khair.
So this is in London. Let me just see. You could say, maybe I could see as well. You got more places here. I'm going to put Battersea. How do you spell that, Battersea?
BATT.
Yeah.
ERSEA.
Okay, got it. Right. It's the same thing. 4:10.
Jazakumullahu anna khair
Anyway,
jazak.
the people who do not know these things, let me just show you, inshallah. So what you to do is just put what time is the nautical dawn into your place. In your place, wherever you are, Brixton, London, Birmingham, even areas in Birmingham, High Wycombe. You're going to get a website. This is called the website, ukweather.uk. This is the one. Okay?
Nah.
Now, in that one, can you just mute him, please? I'm going to talk. You got these are the times here. Okay, it's not really showing properly.
We've given them the link as well, Sheikh.
I'll give you the link, correct. And you look there, there is astronomical twilights. That's not the one. This is where the Hanafi, actually, that's what the earliest. There is no light whatsoever. Astronomical, there's nothing. And if you want to know what is astronomical, read what it doesn't mean. Nautical, that's the Fajr. Dawn civil, that's the civil. Civil twilight is that there's light where the ship can sail. That's after Fajr. Sunrise then, same thing if you're for the Isha time. Look at not civil, not astronomical, nautical twilight ends. So you got the Isha prayer. So the Isha prayer comes in your Battersea 9:45. You start your Isha 9:45, you do your Taraweeh, and you finish by whatever time. So 9:45 is your Isha time. So for everybody who's listening, this is the easiest way for you to find out what time is your Fajr. Okay? And that is the best. And I have measured it with my own eyes. It matches with Google. I went for about maybe 10 days gathering information. I recorded it as well on my I don't really share it with anybody. It's mine. Okay? Because I don't want it to cause fitna for the people. But because you're listening to me, I've got this. This is the best. And I've watched it in Maidenhead 2 years ago. And I saw it. And I saw it's about, we are about 13 minutes before Fajr. We're not really worried regarding the fast because we always fast before. The problem is in Ramadan, they only say 10 minutes, 15 minutes after, 10 minutes, 15 minutes after the fasting time. And we're still not Fajr yet. So I said to them, okay, you fasted, okay. But for your prayer, please keep the 20 minutes gap at least. 20 minutes after your time. 20 minutes to be in the same. So be precautionary regarding the iftar. Yes, okay, no problem. You want because you don't know. And have precautionary as well regarding your prayer. So make it 20 minutes. Wallahi, one of you, please go out onto your timetable. It says Fajr. Go out. Do you see Fajr? Just look. Absolute darkness. No Fajr. 100%. Because they measure it with the degree of the sun, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, the measurements will be with the eyes. Yes, you could measure with the eyes and then you match it to which degree, but that differs from winter. And even in the winter months, which one is November, December, January, it differs. That's why the visualization would be the best. But sometimes you can't because of the clouds. You could estimate. Okay, but definitely our timetable in terms of fasting wise, you're not going to break your fast if you stop by that Fajr. Regardless of, if you got one masjid, two masjid, three masjid, is one of the latest, you're not going to be break your fast. But the problem is that these people, they're too quick. They want to finish your food and do the prayer. So we tell them, please, brother, give 20 minutes after your timetable in order to make sure that you're praying in the right time. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And we're going to finish in about 2 minutes. So who's Brixton here?
Abdullah Ahmed, the reader. Brixton, go ahead.
Regarding the folding up the garments, a lot of time to avoid making sure that our trousers don't fall beneath our ankles, we fold up our garments and we end up praying as well. So are we under this not allowed to pray in this circumstance?
We're not saying allowed to pray. You're sinned or not sinned. You have to pray. You have to pray.
Prohibition, sorry.
You have to pray. We say the person, first of all, the one who is buying his trousers or buying his whatever, make sure that they are above their ankles. But you bought them already and they are below the ankle. So whenever you walk, you tuck them in, no problem. But when it comes to the prayer, you have to unroll them and pull them up. So if you have, this is your thought, so you pull it up. That's what Abu Bakr used to say. Inni ata'ahadu. I make sure that I'm not really making it go to below my ankles. Okay? But best thing is to cut it to be above the ankles. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Last question.
Farhaz in Brixton, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
What time is the adhan, ya Sheikh Farza?
I think it's 19.
Okay, it's in your, it's not 19, it's, is it? Yes, 19 your time, yes, but to see, 19. So we've got 4 minutes, so we're going to ask your last question to you. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I think there's a difference of opinion in terms of what time up to which you can read Isha. What would you say? Is it halfway through the night or a third through the night?
You mean the Isha? What time does it start?
What time does it finish? To what time can you finish praying the Isha?
What finishes by the majority of the scholars say the Ahnaf that is midnight.
Okay.
Midnight, akhi. Because the Prophet said midnight. In the Hadith of Jibreel says midnight. Midnight is measured between Maghrib and between Fajr. Divide the two between them. So Maghrib now is 8:19. Fajr now is 4:10. So this is 4:09. So between 8:19 and 4:10, how many hours? 8 hours. 8 hours divided by 4, divided by 2 is 4 hours. Add that to the 8:20. That's 12:20 is your midnight. Okay?
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakum ya akhi. I think 12:15. 12:15 because it's 4:10. Right. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. بارك الله فيكم. Make dua. Don't forget, inshallah, this is before the ghurub.